It's time for the Blue Blows Podcast with your hosts, Alonso and Juan, Alicia Del Valle, and the babyface gimmick in the sky, Roger.
BetOnline is your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on our first deposit. Bet online. The game starts here.
So the Dodgers made a trade today with the Toronto Blue Jays. It's not the one that you guys were all thinking about that we've been talking about previously. They traded for Cavan Biggio, the son of Hall of Famer Craig Bigio from the Houston Astros. And on surface, I don't know what to think about that, but we're gonna discuss it here right now tonight. Joining me tonight, we're not doing it live, so we're pre-recording this, so we have our usuals: Canelo, Cody, Snavely, and the gambler Carlos. So what do you guys think about this trade? Cody, what was your initial thoughts when you saw this trade go down and the Dodgers had traded for Cavan Biggio?
Yeah, I know when he was DFA'd by the Blue Jays about a week ago, he kind of profiled as a Dodger, someone that can play multiple positions, has, righty-lefty platoon splits. And the Dodgers right now, kind of what we've been talking about for the past couple weeks, I've said, if Muncy's going to be out and then you're still going to, have Chris Taylor on the roster, you need to find some production elsewhere. And I think defensively, the Dodgers were comfortable with, putting Kike Hernandez at third or Rojas at third. But, Rojas is battling a little bit of an injury with his lower body and his leg, and he's not, just at his age, he's not an everyday starter, even though a lot of people, are kind of, putting that out there just because of his offensive output this season. And Kike Hernandez, for as much as fans love him, he's just not, an everyday starter. He is a bench bat that should be like a late game replacement on the defense side of things. Biggio, you mentioned it, his dad's a Hall of Famer for the Houston Astros, and, Biggio got off to a really good start to his career in 2019 and 2020, and in 2021, that's where, he had some injuries, and his numbers pretty much plateaued after that, and now they've just been on a downward spiral. However, as a lot of people pointed out, he's still, offensive production-wise, in a limited sample size, is better than three of the hitters that are currently on the Dodgers in, Gavin Lux, Chris Taylor, and Kike Hernandez. So if the Dodgers can get anything at all over the next couple weeks until Max Muny returns, that's a positive. They didn't have to make a corresponding, 40-man roster move just because they DFA'd Hernandez last week to make room for Evan Phillips. And, the only downside was just optioning, Miguel Vargas, who I would say it's better that he, goes back to AAA and still continues to get playing time rather than just, sitting on the bench. But it's unfortunate for him because, Dave Roberts even mentioned today while we're recording this during his pregame scrum that Miguel Vargas is a major league player, then he should be on a team. It's just, Carlos alluded to it, before the show today and kind of in previous episodes where he's the Dodgers trade chip right now, position player wise. So I'm excited to see Bigio play today. I'm sure when this posts tomorrow, he'll probably go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. But, I think there is a lot of upside. The Dodgers like doing these types of moves. And, I think the way things are going right now is similar to 2021 where they had to take flyers on certain players and see what works. They took a flyer on Albert Pujols when he was having a down start of 2021 season. Sheldon Noisy, he got a call up. And then McKinney, he also got some at-bats. Steven Souza Jr., the Dodgers are kind of just pressing right now for some production somewhere just because we know how bad the bottom half of the lineup has been collectively for the year, even though, Carlos did mention, on the weekly rewind that they've kind of been pulling their weight the past, 7 to 10 days.
So we'll get back to the Vargas thing. But Carlos, I wanted to ask you, because I know when the trade went down, it's been a couple hours now. You've gotten some time to think about it. On the surface, it kind of looked like kind of the same player like Gavin Lux, right? Difference though being is Bigio can play, around the diamond pretty much, except I don't think he's played shortstop, and I think he's played pretty much all the outfield positions. So he has that, up on a guy like Gavin Lux. So what do you think of the trade now, kind of when you've looked at it and kind of seen where they're at and kind of how you feeling about it right now?
Yeah, now that I've got to like kind of looked at the numbers and stuff, I think that Bigio's the biggest trade for this. The reason for this is third base. I think he'll play a lot of third base. As you can see, he's starting today at third base. Hopefully, he won't go 0 for 4. Hopefully, he'll go 1 for 3, 1 for 4, maybe a walk or so. But hopefully, that's what he'll get. I did like Cody said. I thought, the numbers are showing that the bottom of the lineup is improving. And the only the one thing I will say that I disagree with Cody is the 3 guys that he is replacing. I'd say 2 of them are definitely on the down end, and that's why they had to bring somebody. Hernandez. These are the numbers right now. So Hernandez, last 7 games, 227. Last 15 games, 186. Taylor, we all know, and we're gonna beat a dead horse, but Taylor last 7 games, 095. Last 15, 128. Now Bigio did start off the season rough. If you look at his last 30 games, it's 132, but his last 7 games, he's 231. Now, the guy that I disagree that, everybody just, I don't know why they're giving him a hard time, but, Gavin Lux, man, last 15 games, 294, last 7 games, 280, last 2 games, I think he's like, I think it's 5 for 9 or something like that. So, Gavin Lux is definitely, he's, I think I've read on social media, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this is to replace Lux. No, it's not to replace Lux. It's really to replace third base. I think he'll play a lot of third base, and yes, yeah, he does play the outfield, and he'll play a lot of left field because when they platoon, we know Teoscar's going to go to right field when Hayward's out. So overall, I think the trade, I mean, it makes sense because who we lost to get him was I'd never heard that prospect before, and I don't think he was even, I don't know if he was top 100. I'm sure he's probably up there somewhere, but so we didn't lose too much. I think it's a good move just to see, hopefully, like we've been saying, hopefully just getting him out of the Toronto, bringing him over here to LA, maybe that'll fire him up. Now that he really is going to play with Ohtani and not just make believe that he was going to play with Ohtani, maybe that'll get him going too. And you saw that his locker is right next to Teoscar too, so they put him next to Teoscar, which is there's a reason, so he can feel comfortable and be around someone that he knows. So hopefully it'll be a good move, but it's we'll wait and see what happens.
So with that trade, obviously, like you said, it's not really for Lux, right? It's going to be for him to fill in at third. I mean, how concerning now is that with Max Muncy? Now, at first it was Max Muncy, yeah, hopefully it's a week or so, and then he'll be back. But now we're getting on into like 2-3 weeks, and we know these oblique injuries can be like real tricky. I remember Ryan Pepiot at the start of last season, he got hurt like right before the season started, and I don't think he came back till like June or July. So it could be a couple months. Like, how concerned are you guys right now with Max Muncy and when he might be coming back?
I would say it's kind of what we've been talking about. I think we shared the sentiment, in our last week's live and the week before that, where I kind of don't really trust the injury reports from the Dodgers and what they spill out, because they kind of have a track record of keeping things very, close to the chest on these types of things. And Max Muncy's no different, and I feel like one week you hear one thing about how the injury is progressing, and then one week you hear another thing and how it's kind of, not going the way they originally hoped, or something else popped up. The moment I heard oblique injury, as soon as it started in mid-May when he got placed on the IL, I kind of, like, my eyes kind of opened, just because, anyone that watches sports, particularly baseball, oblique injuries can be very, very tricky. And Roger, you bring up a great point. Ryan Pepiot got injured with his oblique a week before the season start, and he didn't even start his, throwing program until almost, in June, July, and then he didn't make his MLB debut until like August. So that could be a situation the Dodgers are looking at with Max Muncy in terms of, when are they going to expect him back? Because it's not an injury that you can really put a firm timetable on. It's just, it's different for everybody. Once it's healed, it's healed. And once he feels comfortable enough to start swinging the bat, playing defensive regularly, that's when he's going to get starting. So, and then once he's ready to come back, how long is his rehab assignment going to be? It's not going to be like Jason Hayward where it's only like, 2 to 3 games. He may need maybe a week down in the minors just to get his, his eyes and his bat straight. I am a little concerned, and if they can't get the production from Kike Hernandez, Chris Taylor, or now, Biggio, the Dodgers are just going to have to kind of get creative and look either internally with some options there and give them a shot, or externally they may have to get creative in the trade market, whether it's for, an all-star player like we've been talking about, and move around the infield defense, or you try to get, another utility guy that has better offensive numbers. But there's a lot of weeks between now and then. But my concern level is moderately high for Muncy.
Yeah, you know what? Cody's right. That Dodgers tend to kind of like keep the injuries low key, and then all of a sudden the fans find out, oh, this guy's out. Like Emmett Sheehan, they made it sound like he was going to be back, and then all of a sudden he's got, I think, Tommy John. So yeah, it's I saw the interview today with Foul Territory with Max Muncy. He was on it today, and he was basically saying, you know what, I there's nothing I can do about it. I'm gonna have to just wait. This is the worst kind of injury that can happen to a position player. So it sounds like he's going to be out for a while. And I think I'll touch on what Cody said. I think if this Bigio, let's call it project, doesn't work out, the Dodgers are just going to keep trading players until something sticks, because unless they bring up the guy from OKC from the AAA team, Andre, right? Is it Andre Lipsius? If they bring him, that maybe that's the next move. But I think that we're going to go around like in a carousel, just trading players until something sticks, because and I'm hoping Bigio, like I said, he's invigorated with this whole new team, and he's got this newfound energy, and who knows, maybe his dad will come down to Dodger Stadium, which would be cool, get some autographs there, that'll be fun. So we'll see what happens. Playing for the Dodgers is not like playing for and I think the Toronto Blue Jays are a good team, but it's just not the same type of city and that atmosphere that you play out all the time.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys mentioned it. So obviously, training for Bigio, the immediate impact that it has on other guys, right? Obviously, first one, Miguel Vargas, right? He gets sent down. But now if he's going to be playing third base, right, that's going to affect Kike Hernandez and his playing time. How much time is he going to get now? Or is he's going to get some time at third and, I don't know, maybe second and maybe the outfield? And then you mentioned it, Andre Lipsius. Last couple of days, all I heard was about, we got to give this guy a shot. We got to bring him up. We got to call him up and see. Now I'm thinking that's probably on the back burner. Even if it wasn't something that they were even thinking about, I don't expect to see him anytime soon, unless Bigio, kind of maybe isn't what they were looking for, or he can't get it going or something like that. But as far as that, do you see any other, or what do you see they do with guys like Kike now and Taylor? Do you think there is some kind of trade in the works where they might try and move some of those guys, now or at trade deadline?
I mean, you look at the roster and the way it is right now, Vargas is a guy who got a shot last year. He got a brief shot this year. For the past couple of weeks, we were wondering, he shows his worth. He gets a couple hits one game, and then we won't see him until, that weekend. He gets a hit on Monday. We won't see him until Saturday when a lefty's starting on the mound, and then he'll get a hit then, and then he'll still ride the bench. And for development-wise, that's not good for a prospect, but, it's something that we talked about early in the season. A lot of the Dodgers farm system, they are aging out. They're not like they're 19 and 20 years old. They're, over 25, and Vargas is one of those guys as well, where he kind of has to be here now, or you kind of just have to move on, via a trade. And we like to joke and saying he's the new Michael Bush, but he kind of is the new Michael Bush, where he doesn't have a position. He doesn't have a spot in the lineup. And the Dodgers, I think they were confident this year with his bat, but him playing left field, they weren't overly confident on it. Juan brought it up a good point about, I think, either last week's live or the week before, where those defensive miscues, those can lead to, injuries. Those can lead to errors. Those can lead to runs. Those can lead to losses. And the Dodgers, I feel, they just didn't want to put Vargas in those situations, especially when the team was already kind of in a funk where, they needed that final win in Pittsburgh. They needed to win a series in New York, so they kind of had to put their best defensive, positions out there. That's why Kike Hernandez is getting more starts. But, with Bigio, hopefully you start to see more of a platoon role with all these guys, because at the end of the day, Chris Taylor, he's going to get his starts just until, at least Max Muncy returns, so that the Dodgers have a very good enough sample size. I don't know how much more they need to realize that there's clearly something off. But in terms of Kike Hernandez and Miguel Rojas, Rojas is having a really good offensive season because he's playing in a limited sample size. The Dodgers are putting him in the best position to win. They're putting him in the best matchups. They're giving him limited game time. That way to keep, he is in his, mid 30s. So they're trying to keep his legs fresh, ready for October. And he can't be a starter. So Bigio, he's a lefty. The Dodgers, what are they missing on their bench right now? It is a lefty. Ever since, Muncy goes in the IL, James Outman gets optioned down, their bench is looking pretty right-handed heavy with, Vargas, Rojas, Hernandez, and even Barnes thrown into there. That's all righties that I just listed off. So I think the Dodgers need, a left-handed bat, and that was kind of one of the things where, I posted an article on Dodgers Beat where MLB insiders are saying, hey, what are the Dodgers going to be looking in that? And instead of them saying, like in previous years, like, oh, pitching, they're actually just saying, hey, they need an offensive bat. They need someone either in the infield or the outfield or even both. But particularly they need, to improve on hitting against right-handed pitching, which is kind of weird because in years past it was always, hey, who's that impact right-handed bat that we can hit lefties off of? They kind of have reverse splits this year. They're hitting lefties better and they're not hitting righties as hard. So they kind of need that left-handed presence. And hopefully Biggio can give them that until Max Muncy returns. That just shows how big of a loss he is.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of another guy that's probably going to be affected by this is James Outman as well. Now you have, like you said, you bring another lefty bat. There's another guy on the roster. Max Muncy comes back. You got to make a move somewhere, right? Whether it's Taylor or if there's an injury. James Outman kind of looks like the odd man out as well. So, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. Are they going to have to package some of these guys to move them? I've been saying it with Vargas. I didn't like the move to call him up and not let him play. I kind of wanted him to have a runway. And we saw this time around in his limited sample, he actually did pretty good. So I don't know if maybe they just wanted to showcase him a little bit, and maybe they are going to pull the trigger and find a trade partner for him. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really see another opportunity for him back with the club unless something drastic happens. But we'll switch a little bit now, from the trade. We discussed this the other night on the rewind. Cody, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So Corey Seager is back in town. He didn't play in the first game. He is going to DH tonight. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on having Corey Seager back, in LA for the first time. Obviously, he was here for the All-Star game, but kind of a lot different. He touched on that yesterday. So what are your thoughts on seeing Seager back in LA?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, really appreciate, Carlos and Alyssa giving their thoughts on the latest Weekly Rewind episode. Just finished listening to that the other day. So, Corey Seager coming back to Dodger Stadium, it's a big deal. Corey Seager was, such an integral part of this franchise for the past, since his call up in 2015, and he was a prospect that, I knew about when I was way back in middle school, where, they drafted this, young shortstop from, North Carolina or South Carolina, and 2013, 14, you see him starting to make his ways through the minor leagues. And, honestly, just kind of reading what a lot of people were saying that cover, whether it's the team or baseball in general, but they said that arguably he is the best product the Dodgers farm system has produced since Clayton Kershaw. And when you look at some of the players that have came out of our system, it's actually pretty accurate, in terms of, I know Bellinger won an MVP and everything right there, but Corey Seager has continuously shown that he is one of, if not the best shortstops in the game, and one of, if not the best players in the game, especially when fully healthy. And, besides, the 2018 season where he missed with Tommy John surgery and, some other minor injuries throughout his career, he was, the cornerstone of the Dodgers offense, batting second, and, he was on those teams that went to the 2017 World Series. He wins the 2020 World Series, wins the MVP in that World Series as well, and then continues to show that he is built for October and that he is built for a winning franchise, and ends up winning the first World Series for the Texas Rangers and wins World Series MVP in that one as well. I know a lot of Dodger fans, they feel some type of way about Seager leaving, but it's at the end of the day, I just kind of got the vibe that he wasn't going to stay regardless, and I think as long as the Dodgers made a competitive offer, which everything that was rumored between their negotiations, it seemed like the Dodgers did, I'm okay with that. If the Dodgers offered him a reasonable offer and then he just decided to go with the next best offer, which was the Texas Rangers, who offered him the most money. And if you know anything about Texas, they got really good tax breaks over there, so it was kind of a no-brainer decision for himself. But it's a really big thing, and he wasn't in the starting lineup for Game 1. I believe he is in the starting lineup for tonight's game, so we'll see how much damage he does, when this is posted tomorrow. But I think it's good. I think it's a little bit of a closure because, he did make a brief appearance in the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game in 2022. So I think it's a nice closing of the book here for the Seager saga. And it looks bad now just because, all the, the news and, the opinions about Gavin Lux and Mookie Betts at shortstop. Trey Turner leaves and goes to the Phillies, and the Dodgers kind of are, at a loss for words in terms of long-term outlook for shortstop, because even if Betts plays the entire season there this year, I mean, they don't really have many shortstops in the pipeline unless you're counting Trey Sweeney, which I know Carlos is a fan of, and, he's having a really good season this year as well. But there was a period of dark times, for the Dodgers when they didn't really have a shortstop that was playing there, day in and day out. It was kind of a revolving door until Seager came in. So I think it's a really good thing that he's coming back and he's playing today. You always want to see your stars play, but hopefully he just doesn't do too much to us.
And I'm in the same boat as you are. Like I never really thought he was going to come back. I thought he kind of wanted to leave. He said he wanted to be closer to home. He's in Texas, a little bit closer, right, to North Carolina. I don't know if you guys saw the interview. He spoke yesterday to media before the game, and he didn't really want to touch. They were trying to ask him about, like, how I guess where he ended up signing, how competitive it might have been or whatever. He didn't want to touch that. What I did find interesting, though, is they asked him about being a postseason player, and he didn't want to answer that. They asked him, like, "Are you a postseason player?" And he kind of like he shrugged it off, like, kind of no comment. Do you think, like, we've talked about this a lot, like, oh, this guy's a postseason player, he's a postseason player. I mean, what do you think, Carlos? I mean, him kind of shrugging it off, like, what do you think he's thinking, like, when they're asking him, hey, are you a postseason player? Do you buy into that narrative, like, here, this guy's a postseason player, this guy's not a postseason player?
Yeah, I think he's just a humble guy and doesn't want to brag about, that the fact that he is a postseason player. I mean, what Cody said is true. I mean, he looks like, other than Kershaw, I guess if somebody asked me who, what's another good, farm player from the Dodgers, yeah, it's Corey Seager. He's probably the best after Kershaw. He's probably the best one, and he's a nice guy. I remember going to watch him at Lancaster when he played for the Quakes and watching the game out there, and he was just a nice guy. After the game, signing autographs and just not a jerk, because I've had experiences when we went to Jethawks, and at that time, this is a while back. This is like in 2013 or so, and I remember having an interaction with Carlos Correa. At that time, he was already a douchebag. Carlos Correa. He would tell all the fans, and this is minor league. He would tell fans only one signature in the minor leagues. Corey Seager, man, there wasn't a lot of people. It was only like 5 people trying to get his autograph, but he was still very nice. So I just think that reflects a lot to the question he was asked yesterday. He's just that kind of guy. Why would he have to brag about, yeah, I'm a postseason guy? He's not that type of person. And you know what? he's a stand-up guy, and you wish him luck, and hope, like Cody said, hopefully he doesn't do too much damage today. I think he's batting second or so. So yeah, it's nice to have him back in. They gave him a standing ovation. They did like a little video for him, and then he came out. The fans applauded him. So he's a good guy. I wish he did. I wish he had chosen the Dodgers, and then we wouldn't have this issue we're having now with this shortstop dilemma. But he didn't, and so we have we got to figure this thing out on our own. And so far, I mean, I don't think it's as bad. I know I read Cody's article, his opinion piece on the middle infield, and I mean, it could be better, but it's not the worst, I guess.
And I always look at it too, like, kind of, I guess, trying to look at it in perspective, right? Because say they would have signed Corey Seager that year, right? It would have been like, what, over $300 million deal, right? The next year, I think it was the next year, right? And then they signed Freeman after that, right? And then obviously Shohei. So like, how would have that impacted any of those signings? Maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe it would have. Kind of the Yoshi deals, stuff like that. That's kind of how I try to keep it in perspective. Like, well, if they sign him, maybe they don't sign these other guys. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, like, so the reason why I don't feel no ill will towards how everything transpired, because, Corey Seager signs a massive deal right before the lockout. Then we go through an entire winter all the way up until spring training, no action, and the Dodgers immediately pivot, and then they land Freddie Freeman. So you trade one left-handed bat for a cheaper left-handed bat because, Freddie Freeman, signed a pretty big deal for his age and being a first baseman, but it was still like $150 million less than what Corey Seager got. And arguably, I would say Freddie Freeman, in terms of hitting, is the better pure overall hitter in terms of consistency and what you're getting, especially if you look at the first 2 seasons that we got out of Freddie Freeman. And not only was he extremely healthy, but he was extremely productive. Arguably, his first 2 seasons in LA were some of his best seasons of his entire major league career up in that point. So, and Seager, he still battled a little bit of health issues with the Rangers, and that's something that almost affected the Rangers themselves last year. He missed a good stretch of games. The Rangers barely made the playoffs last year. I feel like a lot of people forget that they were the last seeded wildcard team in the American League. Last year's World Series was the bottom seeds of each, league, the National League and the American League. In terms of the postseason, hero comments, I definitely think he's not that type of player. I'm glad Carlos, brought up, Correa, because that's just the two mentalities. And now look where they're at as they get to the latter half of their career. Carlos Correa's arguably not the same player as he was, and if anything, Corey Seager has elevated his game, tenfold from when he was at that same time. So looking at his postseason stats, like, I forgot, because I know we've watched some Dodger series where he was just bad. Like, he wasn't good. Like, 2021 wasn't good. 2015 he struggled. That was his rookie year. 2016 he had a couple home runs. 2017 he missed a whole NLCS due to an injury with that. Had some key hits there. Not a factor in 2019. There was some ups and downs, but when he was on, I forgot how good he was in that 2020 postseason with 20 RBIs. I'm just looking at the statistics on there, and I just see the big 2-0 for the RBI counter, 8 home runs. But in his career, he's a 254 hitter in the postseason with 76 hits, 19 home runs, 48 RBIs in 78 games. And if this guy continues to make, the Rangers a perennial postseason contender, he's going to continue to rake. I think he's just a good overall hitter. And if he's not playing shortstop the rest of his career, he'll either move to third base or be a DH. And you're kind of talking about a guy that may potentially be a Hall of Fame player. But when everything's said and done, he will definitely have quite a bit on his resume.
So I wanted to pivot a little bit to some comments that we got from Dave Roberts today. So the Dodgers ended up moving Yoshinobu Yamamoto's start date from, it's going to be Thursday on his bobblehead night. And they said they were going to push him back like a day, but they actually pushed him back to Sunday, right? I believe it's a Sunday game or Saturday. Pushed him back 2 days. So is that just, do you think, giving him more rest, or should we start kind of like, okay, why are they pushing him back a couple days when they kind of just said they were going to push him back a day or so?
I just think it's the guy pitched in Japan, I think, on 6 days rest all the time. I think it's just that, and they just don't want to take a chance with a 4-day rest or pitch on the 5th day. I don't think it's nothing to worry about. I mean, I would love for him to pitch more often, but
the reason also too, let me preface it too. The reason I asked too is because when we were discussing this, Juan's at the game, he kind of mentioned that Roberts, and it's in the video too, like Roberts didn't really want to spend a lot of time on that. Like he didn't want to answer a lot of questions regarding it. I think they were trying to get follow-up questions in as well. That's like why they're pushing him back. And Roberts kind of just like moved along pretty quickly. So that's kind of why we're kind of like, well, is it something or is it kind of just, is it nothing, right?
Right. I mean, if he's pitching Saturday, I think, I think he's okay. Like I said, I think it's just, I think maybe Roberts doesn't want to get into questions about like, hey, how come you don't pitch him like a normal rotation, like here in the States, as opposed to what they did in Japan. But, this always goes back to what we've been saying from the beginning of the season. When Miller comes back, you're going to have the opportunity to go to a 6-man rotation. Just do it, just do it, because then you won't have to like, okay, let's push him back 1 day. Let's push him back 2 days. Let's have a bullpen game here. Let's just go 6-man rotation and we'll be fine, and I don't know. I just think that's the route to go, and not sure why the Dodgers are so hesitant on that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Carlos. I don't think, I'm not reading into it. A lot of people were saying, is it possibly an injury? I don't think so. Dude was pumping almost 99 miles per hour in New York pretty easily. And, he came out of that start fine, 7 shutout innings. I just think the Dodgers are being overly cautious because he did throw over 100 pitches. And I think it was the most pitches he's thrown this year so far. So I think it's a combination of them being overly cautious and then kind of going, in Japan, he only pitched like once a week. So they're still kind of on that, that schedule with him in the States. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon until he's more assimilated into how they pitch. And like I've said, with, multiple, articles, podcasts that I've been on, I think in the future, the rosters are going to expand eventually just to pave the way for more pitchers on the roster, just because of the amount of injuries that are going on. But it's a no-brainer that they should do a 6-man rotation. Either if we get into him today or in the next episode, Bobby Miller's about to come back. He's making one more rehab start. On Thursday, they're anticipating him to rejoin the team potentially for the Colorado series. I think once that happens and, James Paxton's still healthy, if they don't want to IL him, you got 6 solid starters right there. And the Dodgers haven't really, I think the only starter that's gone on like regular rest this year, or like 4 days, has been Tyler Glasnow in that start against New York. And he wasn't too sharp in that start either, even though he did get, I believe, 12 strikeouts. He got bit by the long ball. So I think the Dodgers are going to try to do the best they can for load management all the way until they get to October. The only part of it that concerns me is that when you get to October, and if these guys are just, their bodies are only used to going, every, more than 5 days, like, you need some of those guys to count on. Like Kershaw, I know we depended on him a lot to go on 4 or 3 days rest, but sometimes in October you need that. And I don't know if I'm overly confident if the Dodgers go up to Yamamoto and say, hey, we need you to go on 4 days rest. I just feel like he would get shelled. Glasnow, I'm not overly confident starting on short rest either. And I know I always like to say you got to live in the moment right now for the regular season, but it's October. We're scared of what's going to happen. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen. And I think this is where, we like to joke about load management. It didn't work for the Lakers. It won't work for the Dodgers. They have to kind of find a way to incorporate these guys pitching on regular rest at some point in the season. And I'm just interested to see how they implement that with the amount of pitchers they not only have coming back from the IL this month, but in the coming months when Kershaw comes back, and you get a whole more, you open a whole more can of worms in terms of who's going to get starts, who's going to get innings, and how long of a break are we going between starts.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Bobby Miller, he should be back next week. I believe his last rehab start is it like today or tomorrow or something, right? It's coming up real quick. And then, so they're going to have to address that. They're going to have to address whether they're going to go to 6-man or what they're going to do when Bobby Miller gets reinstated. And, we had mentioned, Paxton, maybe Paxton lands on that. I mean, he looked pretty good his last start, right? Prior to that was his one Rocky start, but prior to those, he's been pretty good. And, if you look through that rotation, there isn't really anybody that's not been good at all. I mean, from Yoshi, to Tyler Glasnow, Paxton, they're all been pretty good, especially Gavin Stone. So it's still, what are they going to do? Like, what are they going to do with those guys? And I mean, Cody, would you put Stone in the bullpen to keep him on the roster?
No, I think what I would do if I were the Dodgers, if I was Andrew Friedman, I would continue, moving along like the rest days, like continue giving multiple starters more than either 5 or more days rest if they need it. If Yamamoto only wants to go 1 start a week, so be it. Give him 6 days rest, give him 7 days rest, depending on how deep his start goes. I think Gavin Stone definitely earned his right to stay in the starting rotation. I think the only one that you can start saying, hey, should we do some piggybacks on is James Paxton. I think you signed him to be your 5th starter. You treat him like your 5th starter. You give him, hopefully you're with your 5th starter, you're hoping to get 5 innings, a couple earned runs in there, but then maybe you can piggyback him with Ryan Yarbrough or Michael Grove, or another arm in the bullpen. You have the option of doing bullpen games if you still want to do that, even with all those starters on the roster. But I don't think it'll be good for Gavin Stone to put him in the bullpen. I think he's kind of in a routine right now, and over the past month and a half, I think he's been doing a pretty good job. Starting every 5th day, going at least 6 innings every single start except for 1, and he did pretty good against a very good Yankees lineup, albeit without Juan Soto, but I still don't think that would have mattered either. I think it would be a disservice to him, but if the Dodgers want to do it just to control his innings, they may end up doing that. This season I really don't know what route the Dodgers are going to take with a number of situations, just because there's so much at stake this season. But they've kind of done some uncharacteristic things in terms of the front office and the coaching staff, and it all started when they moved Betts to shortstop out of nowhere with a week to go in spring training. But yeah, I would say as of this point, Stone will stay in the rotation. If you're going to try to move anybody, it would be Paxton.
So Walker Buehler is actually one that he spoke about that, kind of saying he doesn't really like getting the extra days of rest, but he understands it for the other guys on the rotation that may need that extra day rest or whatever it is. So Carlos, I want you to put your GM, your Andrew Friedman hat on. Say they're not going to go to a 6-man rotation. What are you going to do? How are you going to? Bobby Miller comes back. What's your next move?
Well, that's a tough one, man. Honestly, usually I would be like, hey, let's do this. I would do this and that. I mean, if we're just going based on performance, I mean, to me, the guy out would be Buehler. Because Paxton, as much as we want to say that he's not that good, man, that guy has. I mean, I know the record. Sometimes when you look at records, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's meaningless, but it's kind of deceiving, because maybe he has a lot of run support. Like yesterday, he got 15 runs, but before he got out, he had I think he went almost to the 6. So he had 13 runs. But he pitched well yesterday. I mean, he had one out. The previous outing against the Pirates was not good, of course. That's when he walks a lot. So when he walks a lot of batters, we know he's not on. He just can't find the strike zone. But when he walks only 2 yesterday, and we know he's not a high strikeout guy anymore. Did you see how? Yeah, I don't know if you noticed Cody yesterday, but we've been talking all season long. We've been talking about how last year with the Red Sox, he was topping out between 96, 98. Yesterday, he was topping out at 92, 91. And it's, of course, you're not going to strike out a lot of batters going 91, 92, but he's effective. He's moving the ball around. They're not scoring up the ball as much, at least not in last game. So it's hard to remove Paxton when he's actually getting you. And if we've mentioned that he's the guy that won't be on the postseason roster, then why not use him up all season long to save your other arms? That should be the philosophy. Because Cody, I never thought about this, but Cody made a good point. If Yamamoto only pitches every 6 days, then that means he's only going to pitch 3 games in the playoffs if the Dodgers make it all the way through. 1 in the first round, 1 in the second round in the World Series, and that's it. I mean, that's not typically how you put your best pitchers to pitch. They usually pitch about 2 games per series, but apparently that's how it's going to be. So yeah, I mean, I like Buehler. I think he's got good stuff still. He throws the ball. I mean, he's throwing harder than I've seen him in a couple of years now, but he's just the guy who's just, for whatever reason, he's just not pitching that great. Hopefully he has a better game today. And I mean, he's had some bad luck with defense too. And that kind of breaks you as a pitcher. You're out there and you think you're pitching well, and then somebody makes like the one with Pajes where the ball rolled back. Then the next week, I think it was Hernandez, the ball hits off his glove and the guys went up 1 base. I mean, those things psychologically, and we know that Buehler, he's even said that before he was kind of like he would just get so irate and be so mad, and he's kind of easygoing. But how much has that really changed? And I'm sure he's not going to show it on the field and be disrespectful to his teammates and say, hey, you guys, come on, But I think that affects him when he's pitching and the team is not playing good defense. So yeah, if I had to say, I would say Buehler, go to the bullpen and be like a long relief. If you have bullpen games, I don't know. I know it sounds weird having Buehler in the bullpen, but that's the guy who I would say for right now. Because Stone, like we were talking in the review on Sunday, Stone had, he's proven himself. I don't know what else he has to do to show the management, the coaches, the league. He's legit. He's a true, he's a true number 2-3 pitcher for the Dodgers. And don't put him in the bullpen. I think it'll be demoralizing for him if that happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. Like we said, probably within the next week, we should kind of see some moves. I mean, it's tough decisions. That's why I'm glad, I'm glad I'm not the GM. I'm just a fan, kind of just looking and seeing what's happening, and I don't have to make these decisions because they're tough decisions. But, we've always kind of said things kind of work themselves out. Something usually happens and things shuffle and kind of it all works out. So before we end, as most people are aware, Los Angeles kind of lost. Not kind of lost. They did lose a legend in Los Angeles in basketball. Jerry West passed away today. I believe. What's his age? 87?
86.
86. So Jerry West obviously instrumental with the Lakers. Their championship runs, even past his playing days. Them drafting Kobe Bryant, and we were talking amongst ourselves, and wanted to get everybody's thoughts. And hey, Cody, what did you think about Jerry West, Cody?
I mean, you guys got me in a weird spot. I'm not the biggest basketball fan. That's why I'm on a baseball podcast. But I did my little Google search, and you guys gave me a little bit of information. But he was a big part of that Lakers championship runs. Him being involved in getting Kobe Bryant, that's like another big thing for the Lakers as well. And just in terms of if Los Angeles isn't a baseball town, it's a basketball town too. So, and those two sports are very instrumental for the city. So whether you're losing a baseball icon like Vin Scully, or if you're losing a basketball icon, it's a big deal for the city of Los Angeles.
And sometimes I forget that Cody is a lot younger than us, right? He's 24 years old. I forget that he's not in LA. He's not even a transplant. He wasn't even in LA, and he moved to Delaware. So like, I have no idea. Like, how did this guy become a Dodgers fan? How did he become an LA fan? He's a Dodger fan on the East Coast, right? Just out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, I kind of I forget that. I'm like, how do you not know who Jerry West is? Like, he's the logo of the NBA. Like, how do you not know that? Like, but I mean, Carlos, what were your thoughts kind of when you heard that Jerry West had passed away?
So Jerry West, brought the Showtime Lakers, and Cody, Showtime is the era, not the cable channel. Okay, so Showtime era, honestly, that's what I remember, and I'm like, at that time, I'm like 9 to 12 years old, and that's truly when they used to start playing I Love LA. So when the Lakers would win the game, then they would play I Love LA after the game, like the Dodgers do now. And that's where it really originated from. because I don't remember the Dodgers playing that before. So Showtime, that's Kareem, Magic, Cooper, Worthy, you name it. And, they go on to win, I think with Pat Riley, 3 or 4 titles. I forget what it is. They go back to back to back. I remember as a kid, my dad dropped me off in downtown by City Hall for the parade, which was so cool. And that's why a lot of people talk about the Dodgers in the parade, because in 2020 we didn't have a parade. And so the parade is a big deal. It's such like this celebration of of your team, especially like we always talk about these passionate fans, like us, that want to go and be part of that whole experience. So yeah, the parade I remember going to the parade and it was unforgettable. So he brought that. The other things that stand out is that he brought Kobe Bryant. He made that trade happen and brought Kobe and Shaq together. And then you won another 2 or 3 titles together. And so, we all know it's inevitable for everybody, but it's always sad, of course, when somebody, passes away. So, Jerry West, I mean, he's bigger. I mean, he's like I think Roger's been saying, he's the logo, he's the logo of NBA, and so that says a lot about someone. So yeah, he'll definitely be missed. He was a good guy from all the interviews that I had seen on TV. So
yeah, and like I never saw him play. He was before my time as well too. But I remember, he's the guy that kind of put these teams together, and he put the Lakers teams. And even after that, I mean, he was an advisor. He did advisory roles, after his playing days. For the Warriors as well. He helped put some of their championship teams together. And then he was with Memphis. I remember when the Gasols were there and helped with the trade to get Paul Gasol to the Lakers. And then he ended up finishing with the Clippers. It's sad to see, one of these guys, truly iconic guys in LA, pass away. And he's definitely going to be missed in basketball and NBA and all those circles. Cody, got any ideas yet for the rewind coming up on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we have a lot to talk about. I know Carlos mentioned it. We have a really interesting series with the Royals. They're a very exciting ball club. They're getting their asses kicked by the Yankees, I think today. So it'll be really interesting to see the Royals, because I think a lot of people, when you look at the Royals and you look at recent history, they've been a really bad team, but kind of things have switched gears, and I think we're going to see Seth Lugo this series, which should be interesting because I think the last time he pitched against the Dodgers, he had some choice words to talk about Mookie Betts and the Dodgers. But honestly, one of my favorite players to watch, especially since he's like my age, is Bobby Witt Jr. And this guy's quickly becoming, I would say, almost probably the best player in baseball just because of everything he's doing, well on the field, defense, speed, and offense. So that's going to be a really interesting series and see how the Dodgers kind of, we saw them play up to the Yankees potential. Let's kind of see how they play the Royals with their really good pitching this weekend.
Yeah, and the Yankees have kind of been beating up on them pretty good, right? I keep seeing posts like Yankees are back to their winning way. The Yankees are winning and they continue to win and they've won.
It was like 8-0 in the first inning today.
Yeah, and they'll post like they've won, 12 out of their last 14. Who are those other losses to, right? Who are those other losses to, right?
They're 10-12.
Yeah,
10 wins in their last 12 games.
Yeah, but yeah, should be good. Hopefully this Rangers series, Dodgers pick up another win tonight or tomorrow, and they win this, and then we'll see how they do against the Royals. It's kind of a weird schedule because they go to Colorado for 4, and then they come back. I know there's going to be one where I think they only play like 2 games. I think it's against the Angels.
Yeah, that's weird. They're off on the Sunday. I just saw that too.
It's like this whole month has been really weird, like schedule-wise.
Yeah, they did it before with the Angels, but it was right before the All-Star break. I think last time they did it, and now they're doing it again, which is it's so weird. Because I always tell when my wife will ask me, "Is there a game on Sunday?" I go, "There's always a game on Sunday. That's the end of the series." But apparently not not the following Sunday. So yeah, that's pretty interesting schedule. But yeah, with the Royals, if the Yankees are just beating on them, the Dodgers have to continue that. Don't give them a chance to feel good, because I'm sure they're going to be coming up to LA thinking, oh my gosh, Yankees, now Dodgers. Wow. So yeah, it could get, hopefully if we can sweep the Rangers, I mean, we should win all these 6 games at home. Honestly, we should definitely win. I don't know how the rotation's lining up for the Royals, but I think we can definitely take care of Lugo for sure.
Well, hopefully, I remember I think it was last year, right, when Lugo was pitching in San Diego. It's the game I think that Mookie hit the grand slam. That the game you were referring to, Cody?
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next couple of days. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. And thanks for listening. And just remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We're also doing. I don't know if you guys saw today. We're doing a new promotion with a company called Autograph, and I'll be explaining more on that in the coming days. But basically, it's pretty cool. You go ahead and sign up. It kind of gives you all your news feed in one app. So you'll see our news, you'll see news from other sites as well. You'll get podcasts in there, all basically within one app. So you don't have to. You kind of just get all your news there. You know, your news junkie. You kind of seeing everything there. And once you read those news articles, you actually get coins, which is cool for someone like you, Carlos, that likes to collect and get these different opportunities. Once you get these coins for reading, they have these contests where it might be whatever 20-30 coins, you enter it and it's whatever, a chance to win memorabilia. They're doing a thing with Mookie Betts where you get to do a Q&A. That one's a little bit more detailed. You kind of actually have to fill out some information, kind of why you want to meet them and stuff like that. But it's pretty cool. Now I'll be explaining that in the coming days, so keep an eye on that. So like I said, that's going to do it for this one, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one.
This episode has been brought to you by BetOnline. The game starts here.